Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to do a reading, even though I feel really, really strange. I know I'm not the only ones. That's why I'm doing the reading. Sometimes I really like to do them when I feel all weird and confused and disoriented, because then there's just information that comes through that really benefits me, and hopefully it will benefit some of you as well. So we'll see. So we are coming out of, and maybe we're still in, some of that geomagnetic storming that we had from the CME and some of the solar activity that we've been having kicked at us for the last few days. And so what's interesting is the solar energy for me, the geomagnetic stormings, they move around the body. I don't know if you're finding this, but in the beginning it was really in the heart for me. And then for a while, whenever we would have solar winds, I would feel it in my neck, a lot of neck pain. And now it's in my lower back, like the lowest part of my back. So like root area, which is really interesting. I'm wearing red today. So there's that root synchronicity as well. What I'm finding in a lot of the sessions that I'm doing is we're getting to like really, really root level. Like on the one hand, it's like, now I'm noticing like everything red around me, but and that as well. Wow. Okay. So the symbols are popping at me. There's this whole thing with the elementals coming up as well. I have this stained glass thing with this fairy that's like smelling these red roses. And so that's reminding me to talk about that as well. This other thing that's been coming through. So anyway, two different ways with this root level, either like really, really profound breakthroughs where we've gotten to the point where we're moving out of the lower timelines. I think that would be kind of the summary. Getting to a point where we're collapsing the attachments within ourselves, or the traumas within ourselves, or the implants or the overlays within ourselves that are keeping us hooked into the false inverted timelines that are going on. So we were talking about this in the last reading, and this is probably related, where there were a lot of us having really intense triggers that were linked back to the Atlantean and other timelines of hijack and the fall. And that we were feeling the triggers and the traumas, and when we feel it, we heal it, right? And so being a huge release of the places within us and the distortions within us that allow those things to attach. So now this week in the sessions, I'm seeing this total breakthrough energy, but also the one that I did today, there were a lot of literal like implants and weird like nanotechnology type of symbols being released. What looked like entities or thought forms from the lower timeline that were just sort of like showing up in this like defeated way, where they wanted to leave but they didn't really know how. So it's just this collapse energy. At the same time, I think a lot of us are feeling really strange in our bodies. Like for me, the lower back and just extreme fatigue. Whenever I have extreme fatigue, I feel like there's real cellular and deep, also with the base of the spine. It went from the top of the spine for me to the bottom. For me, that's a symbol, where it's like going deeper. And then what I've been seeing in the sessions as well, where we're releasing. And so our bodies taking a hit, feeling the fatigue, and yet knowing that we know how to do this. Again, it's like the imaginal discs in the caterpillar that knows how to turn into the butterfly. So we can trust the process. We can trust our bodies. We can trust that our souls are here for these higher timelines and whatever kind of like hooks. Of course, there's a lot of agendas flared up right now, so you can feel that in the collective as well. And I think that's been a lot of what I'm feeling. Also, the solar energies help us with that. They help to churn up that which needs to go. So you can look at it on all these different levels, but like summary is like things are leaving, and we have to confront them as they leave. Either we're confronting them on the emotional level through triggers, or on the thought level. I know a lot of people are kind of looping in those fourth dimensional hell realm trapping systems, where you're just falling into despair or falling into hopelessness or catastrophizing and just looping and looping and looping. But even that is a good thing, because you're running that program. It's like the program is actually, these programs are actually loosening and leaving in their bodies, but they need to be seen, to whether they're being seen on the emotional level like last week, or the mental level with the looping, or the pain through the body. Or all of them at once. Some people are feeling all of that at once, to the point where you feel like you're just not gonna make it. It's like it's again that like in the end times, the demons will walk freely on the earth. It's just the false matrix, the false timelines, the false looping trauma cycles that we're in, again, the looping of the mind where we're looping and recreating the same situations over and over and over again, they're being seen. Everything's up on the table, so that's starting with the files, right? The files, and now the alien disclosure, and all the things that's being shown, even though there's like agendas and like hijacks and overlays and like fear programs, attached to all that stuff. At base, it's still the energy of things being illuminated so that we can clear it. So I'm gonna jump into the cards and let them guide me. See what else might want to be said. That's beautiful and encouraging. Otter spirit, you are never alone. Okay, so this reminds me of this message that keeps coming through. There are all these synchronicities around the elementals and the Fey realm. And so it's been happening for me when I've been out in nature, where I've been doing this thing where I'll put on, and that was the other thing, I really wanted to just go out in nature today and frolic, but because of this body pain, I'm just uncomfortable when I'm standing or walking for too long. So I'm doing this instead, but I'm doing this thing now where I'll videotape, I'll see something, like usually so if we're friends on Facebook, you'll see my nature photos. And what I do is something will grab me, and it'll just be like an area, like you can tell from the frequency of it when there's a lot of elemental or Fey activity. And just something about the energy or the way it looks, or, even just seeing the beauty and capturing it, you're having this relationship with the elemental realm. So often I'll see something that I want to video, and I've been putting on my Pandora station and letting whatever song comes on first, and I'll just start filming. And sometimes I don't capture it, sometimes I don't capture it and I toss it. But a lot of times there's this whole transmission that comes through, and it's connected, and then I get messages off of it, right? And so I'll move with the music, but as I'm moving with the music and filming, there's like a conversation, and it feels like a co-creation between the music and the elementals and the beauty and nature and me. And it's just like, it's so much fun. And the last one that I did, or one of the last ones that I did, I felt this real message around the elementals, and I had a dream also around the elementals. You might have read that. It was the one where I lived on the ocean, which I think was probably connected to Tiamat, memories of Tiamat being in the water planet, but there were all these different pathways, and my kids and I, so the kids and I had to, you might have read this, we had to like transport certain things from one port, from one thing to another, but it wasn't things, it was more like energy, and we didn't know how to do it. We were signed this role, so it felt like grid work to me. But there were these children that knew exactly how to do it. They were like eternally youthful. It's like they were children always, and they knew the secret passages. They would go like behind the scenes, really, but it was like underground or underwater, but really it was like behind the scenes. And so when I woke up, it felt very much to me like the elementals. And so the elementals and the workers, or the template builders of nature, the geometry behind nature, so this type of thing. So I'd had that dream, and I was being guided to go to our fire spot where there was grid work that was going on for me that I was connected to, and this type of thing. So I was seeing all this like grid work, I was seeing the elementals. And then when I was out on my walk and I was doing the thing with the music, there was a message that came through around the elementals and around the rising as the true harmonics and the true organic template and geometry of this realm is being released through the energies that are coming in right now, through a lot of the activities on the earth that are clearing these stargates that we're becoming aware of. More and more of us are becoming aware of the power sources on the earth, where they're located, through the grid lines, spreading them and connecting them, and then the hijacks and the overlays on top. A lot of that coming off, okay, and we're feeling it. And as that's coming off, the elementals are interacting with us more. And so there was a synchronicity with a friend of mine who lives in my area. She actually lives right beside me, and so she spends a lot of time on the same hill that I do. And she was saying in her sessions, because she does sort of like psychic, she doesn't like that word, but she does clairvoyant type of readings for people. And she said in her sessions there was a lot coming through about the elementals, where they wanted our presence, they wanted our attention. So it was like, wow, I just had that dream, and I just had that interaction with the land and the music, which is a new like sort of source of oracle for me. receiving. And so it was this whole, they were rising just as we are rising, and inviting this collaboration and inviting this attention, because there's assistance. When we invite them to assist us, we assist them. So it's this symbiotic relationship. And you might notice that in nature. And I really observed this when I went to the fire spot, the inception point of the fire that we had, the big fire we had last year in my area. There was, what was I saying? Yes. So it was really, there was a lot of destruction and just chaos. And, there was just all the fires and all the burnt trees, and then all the trails and everything washed away because of all the flooding that happened because of the fires and all that. And so there's just a really chaotic energy. And I became really aware of how when I'm in nature, it feeds me, but then as I appreciate it and get all blissed out about it, I'm feeding it. And there's this symbiotic relationship also going on between the elementals. So when I was out there, it was really hard for me to get blissed out because there was so much destruction in a lot of the beautiful spots and, memories I've had over the last, 15 years since I've been going out there. Different. And so there was like an emotional process for me, and I could feel the emotional process or energetic of destruction and chaos in the forest and all this. And so I was being reminded again through the music and the play, the spirit weaving with the music and the nature of the elementals, and of acknowledging them because they were doing a lot to rebuild and to repair and all this. So this message keeps coming through, but also that reminder. One of the things that came through when I was doing a write-up for the photos that I took when I got that message around the elementals, I was saying that nature is a portal and our bodies are nature. Our bodies are nature. And I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting that I said that. Well, later it decoded for me, and I'm getting chills because the elementals work with our body as well. The same architecture, the same template that is woven into nature, that is the backbone and the intelligence of nature, is the intelligence of our bodies. And so there's a real and this is connected to the true harmonics of this realm, right? The true just off this card, the true harmonics of this realm, where we are never alone, because there's this energy, this intelligence, this template building that we are a part of. And so we've been plugged into the false system that tells us that we have to hustle and we're not good enough, and damages our body, and then we believe in it and then we create it and all this, whereas as more and more of are extracting from that. My cat, I have a cat door for them, but when I leave my my door open and the screen door's there, sometimes my one cat will just be like, on the door, on the trying to get out, but she's not doing that. She's using the cat door. So anyway, what was I saying? Our bodies, as a lot of us are unplugging from that false matrix, coming into the true harmonics of this realm, we're starting to connect with the elementals. And maybe we're not thinking of it that way, but it's like the invisible, the life force, the organic harmonic templating of this realm that is true. And in that, there's this beautiful ability to not only override the lower system, but to repair our bodies from taking in the lower false superimposed overlaid reality, which is not true. It's not the truest of the true. It's a separation. It's a map that's placed on top of a wholeness that covers up our eyes as we're awakening and connecting to the truth of this realm. We're kicking that off, which is what I was seeing in the session today. Literally, we were pulling out these strange, metal tentacle things that went the whole way through the body, which could be like, oh my God, that's terrible. It's like totally taking some of us over, maybe all of us over, and yet the fact that it's being seen is because it's leaving. And so that can be happening for things in the world as well, where we're seeing behaviors that were completely normalized, that we're now realizing like this is not normal, and I don't want to live in a world like this. And so this is happening for my daughter, and she's getting really depressed and feeling really hopeless, and but I keep telling her, like, you're seeing it because it's leaving, it's changing, and you're part of how it's leaving and changing because you're seeing it. And that's how it always is in energy work. As soon as I see a pattern, and often it won't move until I talk about it, but then as soon as I talk about it, it moves. It's like as soon as it's spotted, and it's not not enough for just me to see it. It's like you have to see it too, right? We see it together and we're both like, oh, and then, and then it'll move, because it's like, once you witness something, then the natural alignment of our bodies, or the natural alignment of the earth grids, or the natural alignment of humans in relation to each other can find their natural rhythm and their natural frequency, because it's natural. It's just, we have to spot and see what is not natural. And that's what's going on in our world. And so anyway, as those things are leaving our body, the effects of living in a distorted matrix, whether it's just mind control that separates you from your power, that then gets you looping, or, traumas that get your energy looping, where it can't flood and flow the way it needs to and nourish your organs, and where you can't hear your higher self and your guidance, you're trapped in this pretzel thing. When that starts to flow, the body can heal, the body can heal, and our minds can heal, and our behaviors can heal. So I feel like there's a lot of that going on right now. And again, the root, if you're also having the pain in your back, it's actually a really good sign. If you're having the looping thoughts, it's actually a really good sign. I always say that the crazier, the better. I feel like the solar energy, I think the last time I said that was we were having a lot of solar activity as well, where it just kicks things up and kicks it loose. So just all this energy of disclosure, but it can look really bad, and it can feel really bad, and it can make you feel really hopeless. But even that is a good sign, because you're doing that alchemy, because you're going into places that you couldn't get into before. And just this reminder that you're never alone, that there is that support. There's the support of the elementals, there's support of the true harmonics of this realm, and their support of your higher selves and your higher aspects, which are always with you. That's the other thing that I'm seeing in sessions, is a lot of people, they're having new aspects of themselves come online, because we're clearing enough and our energy's running enough through, that we're getting more of ourselves and integrating in, so that we're transmitting from that, which is creating a different point of attraction and changing the trajectory of our lives. So I feel like a lot of us are moving into, or in the process of moving into, a completely upgraded life, completely upgraded frequency, and yet we're still in this process of things coming up that we're having to see and clear and feel. And for me right now, and I imagine this is somewhat collective, maybe it's primarily collective, although we're all in different places, but any of the above, emotional, mental, with a looping, or physical in the body, or all of the above. But for me, very much the physical this week. Also a lot of fatigue, a lot of deep dreams, that type of thing. Maybe you're relating. Oh, interesting. The Page of Water. So this is coming through for me right now as this kind of rebirth, new energy. And I think for a lot of us, for a lot of people, we're shedding so much of the falsehood. And some of us are really plugged into this new earth energy, this new earth frequency, and are aligning with it and playing in it, and, sort of anchoring ourselves in it. And again, with the elementals, this kind of reminds me of the energy of my dream, where there were the water children that knew where to go. They knew the underground pathways. They had been doing it their whole lives. They had never been separated from the way that energy actually moves in this realm, this type of thing. So this is what we're coming back to, and what a lot of us are tapping into and feeling. But there are other people who aren't feeling it yet, where it's like all they're feeling is the death, and all they're feeling is it's the ego death, and it's the false death, but it's like, it's all that they've ever known. And it reminds me of the little guy that I saw in the woman I was working with today. And it almost, I described it to her like a lemur. It almost looked like a lemur, where, the ones with the really big eyes that stand up, but it was like all hunched over, and it wasn't that, but it kind of reminded me of that, with the big eyes, and almost like a golem type of figure, right? Where it was just kind of sitting there, and it didn't know what to do. It didn't know what to do. Like, its game was over, but it didn't know what was left. So I was talking about this in the last reading as well, in terms of that forgiveness energy, where a lot of these entities and humans are choosing to align with all that is, because again, it's really encouraging. The game is over for the manipulations, even though there's so much up in the world right now, and it can look really, really bad. Again, that's because it all needs to be up. But in reality, which we were talking about last week as well, it is game over, and there is a singularity, and we're moving towards it, right? So it's like a lot of these being. So I was in the forest the other week and I was with a friend and we were sitting there, and I usually don't feel so viscerally like I'm being, I mean, sometimes I do, but I felt like we were being watched. I kept feeling like there was somebody coming down the path, and I kept looking over and I kept looking over. And finally I was just like, I feel like there's something over there. And she's like, so do I. It's like right behind me. And then all of a sudden we felt them all around us. And I felt one like directly behind me. And they were just like watching, whereas in the past when I would feel that when I was little, it would really scare me. And part of that is just mastery, and part of just being like, okay, this is a multi-dimensional realm. We're all here. There's lots of things here. We can feel it. Some people can see it, like no big deal. You just kind of learn to accept and embrace everything. But I also feel that there was no haunting in the energy. There was no like hijacking or trickery. It was like that little thing I saw in the back of her head. It was just kind of like, what do we do now? What do we do now? So I just like I centered into my own energy and was just kind of embraced the whole thing and accepted it. And then all of a sudden, and I just got in my own, all that is connection. And all of a sudden I felt all this energy going up, and I just like followed it up and watched the top of the trees. And I was just really staying in my own alignment, but I could tell that this energy was being directed through that alignment. Like someone that's in connection with all that is, and in that surrendered, no fear space becomes a lighthouse and a guide for that which is trying to leave. And so that's what I felt. And then when we were walking out, I make this lunch and I put habanero sauce on my vegetables, and so there's still like smoke in the air, and it's like so that's why I'm coughing. I do it like almost every day. I just love this sauce. But anyway, so yeah, anybody who's messaged with me recently has heard the same cough. It's just funny. Anyway, but maybe there's something to that too, right? Expelling from the throat, which is where a lot of that stuff gets attached as well. But so anyway, later on we were walking through, and there was another spot in the forest that felt really dense. So it just feels like, again, everything is up, but that thing of like where a lot is trying to leave, a lot is wanting to leave because it has no other choice. It either has to turn towards all that is and come back in, or it has to go be recycled and start over, somewhere else. And so that's true for the entities and the energies, and just again having that compassion and that forgiveness, because it's like, well, if you're ready to unify, then great, like all is forgiven, because we're all coming home, and we've all done things that when we were out of alignment or asleep or whatever. And so, but there are also, aside from the entities, there are humans like that. There are humans or aspects of ourselves that have ran a certain game or ran a certain frequency, and we're so identified with it and we're so attached to it that as it's the ego death, right? But as it's leaving, it can feel like there's nothing left of you, and you don't know where you're going, and you can't see into this realm because the death is taking precedence. But it can be a really dark and hopeless time, and I've witnessed that in people around me recently, and I'm certain it's true for a lot of people in the world. And so for those of us that can see this, that are aligning and that have already made contact with our with that timeline where we're living in this true energy, it's starting to birth now. We're an anchor. We're an anchor. And again, the grid work where we're all placed around the world. There are a few in a town, or maybe you're the only one in your town, or depending on your town, right? And where you're at and how dense it is and that kind of thing, and what your soul signed up for. And so we're holding this grid. We're lighting up the grid. Okay. So let me move on here. That was kind of a lot. Trusting that I made sense, because every time I go back and listen, it makes sense. So justice, yeah. So bringing things into balance, and there's that sword of truth, and there's the scales that are balanced, but also that polarity of seeing your darkness, seeing the other side of you. So that's going on as well, right? Like seeing the parts of you that are plugged into those programs, or were a part of creating those programs, or are desiring those programs, or the falsehood. There's a lot of looking in the mirror, and a lot of, so Anubis has been coming up for me, a synchronicity for me, and my friend that I always have synchronicities with. And so or Anubis, I don't know, I sometimes say things wrong, but and actually have him over there. And so for me, it's like the way because again, like I was saying, like all the archetypes that come through as energies that I know and work with within myself, and then I'll later learn, oh, okay, this represents that energy. So this whole thing of like, are your scales balanced? Like, are you able to ascend and move into this energy? It's like we're all going to anchor on this higher timeline when we do enough of this shadow work and confrontation and peacemaking with the darker elements in the world and the darker elements within ourselves. Because again, as long as we're pushing it out, we're resisting it, and we're not able to integrate it. We're not able to bring our scales into balance, and so it keeps us locked in that lower frequency. And so whatever we're pointing our, again, don't miss the alchemy for the blame game, right? Whatever we're pointing our finger at or blaming or seeing in another is in some way connected to something in us, right? So so allowing, embracing everything, again, like we were talking about last time, embracing everything as being love. Again, you are never alone. It's all a house of mirrors, and everything's trying to bring you back into your wholeness with your shadow and your past and your light, and all of it needing to be seen. And then, and only then, can we slip into this, because otherwise we're still dancing in that fourth dimensional polarity, us and them type of energy, the old, the hijack, the old system. As long as we're resisting it, we're keeping it alive. It's the same thing that we talk about with our bodies. If we resist or pathologize the pain or fear it, then that energy will stay stuck and last longer. If we can just, like I always, the first time I really had a really strange body hit that I knew was energy and not just like, oh, I have a cold or something like that, I immediately heard, this is light body activation. It's like I got hit with an energy, whether it was solar energy that was coming in, because there was a really huge backside of the sun flare at that time, or whether it was like shedding from the jab, or something else that came in, some of the AI overlays that were coming in at that time, and still more and more and more, whatever it was. I heard and knew that it was facilitating a light body activation. And so that's how I viewed it ever since then, that everything that's happening within our bodies is about an awakening, and is about shutting off, and about things turning on to remind ourselves, ding, 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 here's the time where you turn on to activate this activation, clearing all of this. And of course we create through our thoughts and our focus and our beliefs. So if we're affirming through a negative perspective, and we're in hell realm, and we're a victim, and we're outrunning things, then that's what we're staying in that loop, and that's what we're creating. But if we just find the most empowering perspective and interpretation, and we believe that and align with that, it's what we'll create. We can alchemize and transmute. It's like everything's in service to the light. Everything can be a catalyst into empowerment and into this realm and the truth of reality. So using all of the agendas and all of the overlays and all of the attacks and all of the mind control stuff to catapult you into your empowerment. And a lot of that is just, again, finding the most empowering story, the most audacious story you can tell about what's happening for you. And it's hard to do that in the beginning, because you feel like you're lying, and you feel like you're gonna harm yourself because you're not taking it seriously, and you're just creating some fantasy. But once we realize and remember and claim the fact that we're creator beings, and that we can create this realm any way that we want, that's this energy, then we pull our energy out of the interpretations and definitions and perspectives that we've been given. It's like, I don't want anything in this buffet. I was talking about this several readings ago, many readings ago. Oh, my cat's here. I don't want anything on this buffet. So I'm gonna hold out for the thing that I do want, even though I'm not seeing it here, right? And using your power in that way. So a big opportunity for that right now, because a lot of this is up, and we can drown in it, but we can also sort of wave our hand through it. So we were talking about that before too, where the things were being unplugged, where you can kind of sift through it, so that's still going on. But the more that more and more is getting unplugged, and it's starting to feel like we're swimming in mud a little bit, and yet that it's good. It's all being transmuted, and there are enough of us actively, and I felt like there was a lot that got transmuted today collectively in that session that she and I did together. I felt that as, even just one person removing and clearing that kind of stuff from their body and from their energy field affects others, because it's again, it's like the 8-second race. One person wins it and then other people can, because it makes it possible in the realm. And of course, this is happening all around. There are people extracting from this. Okay, so it's contagious. Not everybody it's the true contagion. It's activation. It's awakening. Okay, so let's see what this one is. I'm not going to take that because there were 3 that fell out. I like to just have one clean, certain card. Yeah, I knew this was going to come up, the moon. So look at her. She's kind of crawling through, crawling through the mud. And I know a lot of us feel this way because we're really tired and just kind of needing to I've been laying on the floor a lot and just kind of like letting my back, relax and compress on a hard space. And so this kind of thing. But the moon is often about that Akashic terrain, the subconscious, that which we can't remember. So this validating what I was saying about the root, we're clearing things on really deep levels that we're not aware of. And that's how I always feel with the fatigue, where it's like it has to take you completely offline. My daughter last night took a nap at like 6 o'clock. She slept for 2 hours, and she was, she's been really moving a lot. She's really moving a lot, and she's not quite, and she sees it and then she goes back down. She's doing a lot in this. And it's been hard. It's been hard to hold space for it, and it's been really hard for her. And yet we all have to do that, especially if we signed up to take on a lot of density, and some of us have, again, the hell divers, right? So crawling through that sewer, but then coming up for air. And one of the things that I reminded her of, and I've said this in readings before too, is that what we're doing is we're shifting frequency. We're shifting the frequency that our dominant frequency. And so we're moving from 4th dimensional into the higher frequencies. And a lot of people doing that now, more people doing that now, where they're having glimpses of the higher timeline. They're having glimpses of this, but then they go back down. And yet it's like with a cork. If you hold a cork underwater and then you let go, it's going to pop back up, right? Like the Abraham Hicks thing, what they always say, your cork is going to float. It's the same thing with these frequencies. You're going to come back out and you're going to start to glimpse again this higher timeline, because again, you're encoded for this, you're here for this. But every time you go back down and you come back up, you strengthen that neural pathway. So it's like you got to do the work, you got to do the accordion, you got to do the back and forth. That was something I was seeing in the session today as well. There was this weaving going on where it was like bringing the two polarities together, bringing them together, because they can be really separate. And when you're on those threshold moments and you're swinging from one end to the other, it's where the greatest alchemy is happening. But when you're over here, you can feel like you're stuck there, but no, you're just pulling back the arrow. You're walking your way out of this density by creating new neural pathways until finally, you're stabilized here. And so I had been doing that work with the fear programs the last 4 years when my light body activation started, and my human self had to go and clear all the fear programs within me. And it went back really far, and I was remembering galactic timelines and lifetimes, and it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, and I was back and forth, and I'd write myself all these notes, and it was like a full-time job. It's kind of all I was doing. It took me about 2 years, and then it started, I wasn't swinging so quickly. I was swinging like every 2 weeks or every 2 hours or every 2 minutes, and and then it would be like something would come up just every once in a while. So just the other night, I felt a little interference the last couple nights, and just in the morning, you're feeling kind of heavy, and again, it's like all this stuff is coming up, and so I felt it like a neural pathway that had been sort of, ignored for a while, right? Like there's another one that took its place, but this one tried to fire, but it didn't really have any juice because I hadn't been feeding it. So it was just kind of this like, like that. And I heard it and I was just like, no, we're not doing that anymore. And it went away, but it's like, it's trying, it's trying. And that's how it is with the agendas too. It's like, let's try this, and it's like the magnetic nature of the truth of reality. It's magnetic. It has its own circuitry. And so it just keeps going and going and going. But it's like the electrical, that which is separate, the rogue masculine energy that's off on its own little agenda. It's like it has no, an electrical current. It goes and then it's gone. It's like you have to recreate it over and over and over again. You can't just get the circuitry going. And then, a lot of us are realizing all we have to do is be in our energy and then be, just be in our energy, and then whatever naturally flows from that is our lives and our expression in the outer world, our dance with the outer world through our energy. But the main thing is to just always bring it back to our center, to be our true energetic signature without leaking anything to fear or programs or obligations, which are also programs, and so yeah. But so there's this, it just sustains, and we just go, and we get to live in this energy and build it more and more and more. But the electrical energy, it has a circuitry, and then it goes. So there's always another distraction. There was always another scare tactic. There's always another false flag, to like try to pull energy to it, because it doesn't have any energy circuitry of its own. It has to steal, right? And so becoming aware of not feeding that system, because when you're feeding that system, you're not feeding your own circuitry, right? And so but a lot of that going on behind the scenes right now, where we're rectifying and recoding and correcting, like we were saying last time. When you heal and you feel, or even your body, some things that are releasing in your body, and you're having all this pain, but things are clearing and recoding, and I'm seeing it in sessions as well. Whenever something clears, the energy will reconfigure, and it will find its natural alignment without the things that were in the way, and then it will balance the polarity, so that it has a stable platform where it can create from and be from and flow its own natural energy. So it's just like that. It's like things clearing from our bodies. There's an inherent restabilization and a reconfiguration going on. A lot of that going on behind the scenes, but this also includes the elementals and the templates, the natural organic templates of our bodies, that when this type of reconfiguration, because remember, our DNA is coded for this, our souls know what's going on, and the relationship between us and the natural world has a plan. They have a right relationship that we've forgotten, but that doesn't mean that relationship isn't there. So those elementals assisting with the body upgrades, assisting with the rewiring and the recoding, because they just like the child in my dream, have never fallen out of it. They've been this forever, and it's like their job. It's their job. So welcoming that, I keep forgetting. I keep getting the message, but I keep forgetting and being reminded to just ask and to acknowledge that relationship. So we're doing it right now. We're putting all of you that are watching, we're putting our attention on the elementals. Oh, that feels so good. It's like and I'm getting chills. It's like we're blasting everyone who watches and connects with this. We're blasting the acknowledgement of these helpers and of this realm, which is helping them too. Because you know how it is, when somebody sees you and they, that's how it is with my friends. It's like, I'll only hang out with people now that we can really see each other, and we're able to grow and blossom in each other's presence, and we're not projecting stuff onto each other or being in shadow. It's like, a true watering of each other, where you can come into more and more of yourself. Same thing with nature. When we're appreciating the beauty of nature, we're also feeding the elementals behind it. But when we can appreciate the beauty and also acknowledge that there are little invisible energies there, we're helping them to come online, which also helps them to enhance their energy and participation in our bodies, which again is nature. It's the same template. So acknowledging that relationship and helping them to come into their full role, which involves, the templating of this realm, which also helps us to come into our full role. So that feels really, really beautiful and really important. All right, let me keep going here. So again, just the behind the scenes, because this is also a card of the behind the scenes, that which can't be seen. So again, that elemental realm coming up a lot in this reading. I think it's come up with 3 of these cards already. So, and then, then we have the hunter, so there it is. And the 7 and the 2 equaling a 9. So that's sort of like, we're still in the cave, we're still crawling through the sewer. We're still being hunted. You can feel it at night, like what I was saying with that little neural pathway. It's like, it's all around us. So that's what I was saying, is bringing me back on track. With the infiltration, the interference at night, where it keeps trying. it keeps yeah, the electric, that's what I was saying, the electrical, where it has to keep trying because it'll have a little flare, and then that'll have a reaction, and then people will sort of stabilize and be like, okay, I know what that is, and then it'll kind of die off, and then they'll do another one. And I'm doing this because there's something else I want to say, and I want to remember, but it's like I feel like we've just had another one, with like the alien disclosure and that kind of stuff, and all the like fear stuff that's going on. You can feel it in the field. And so I used to be like this with my ex-husband when we were in our court wars, and I could always tell when he was planning something. He was planning something. I could feel it behind the scenes, and then I'd get something in the mail. So I'm really honed into that type of energy as well. You can feel it before it comes, or even if you're not aware of it, you're going to feel it like you haven't like seen it yet. You can feel it in the field, that type of thing. So we've just had another one. So it's just going to keep trying and trying and trying. Shit, I forget what this was. Oh, yeah. So that's where everything is in service to the light, where they'll introduce something and it creates this shock, and this, and a lot of the collective gets kicked up, and then the cleanup crew comes along. We crawl through it and we feel it, and we meanwhile keep our sights on the truth of reality, and we clean up, right? And then it stabilizes in the field, and it makes the collective consciousness stronger and more immune. So it's like they keep trying over and over and over again, but everything they try, people are getting more and more immune. And maybe not everybody, maybe some people are afraid over and over again, but a lot of people are getting desensitized. They're getting stronger. They're learning how to call back their energy. And so it's always, again, everything is in service to the light. The darkness is part. Why? Because everything is part of all that is, so the darkness that thinks it's separate does something, but it's still in service. It still benefits. It's still a part of, it's still part of, and it's playing its perfect role. So understanding that even that which seems really bad and annoying and gosh, this is so horrible, it has its play in this evolution, and this and where we're at in this homecoming. It's all being harmonized back home in the symphony of all that is. There needs to be this note as well where we're at right now. So that's really beautiful. All right, so let me go down below. I'm going to pull cards to go underneath these and see, read them kind of on top of each other here. So balance. Wow. So there's balance. So we got that message twice. Justice is also like, this is the just action. This is the time. This is the divine timing where things come into balance. So here we go. And again, where we're at in the cycle of the ages, coming out of Kali Yuga, where we're at in the photon belt, where we're at coming out of a solar maximum, everything is like, this is the time we're coming into the singularity, right? And there's assistance with this. We're coming into balance. We're swinging from one end of things were unified, and then they got separate. We were way over here, and now we're making our way back. We're coming into that balance point. And so, and we're assisted in this. We're assisted through the natural harmonics, again, the elementals of this realm, the truth of this reality. We're part of it. We're woven with it. We have physical bodies. It's all the same templating, the same network. And so there's an inherent intelligence that is guiding this. So we're held in this. We're coming into balance. I'm really loving this color. I'm usually not super into blue. I like more like reds and oranges. And I think because I'm not very anchored, I'm not very grounded. I have had to work really hard to get in my body in this lifetime. But lately the blue has just been making me so happy. Wow. So whatever that means. Okay. So let me go underneath the Page of Cups, that sort of elemental card, the childlike innocence. Let's see what we get. This card tried to come out before. So this is the Four of Pentacles. So it's a card of protection and self-protection. Yeah. So that's exactly right. So this is the glimpse into, we're connecting into that new earth timeline and energy, and really stabilizing. The fours are about stabilization and really prioritizing that. For me, I can't go into town right now. My town feels horrible. My town feels so awful, and I just don't want anything to do with it. I don't even know if I'm going to end up reading downtown. I kind of just don't want to. The distance healings seem like the right, and I am going to do that video. I'm still waiting for the right inspiration. I think my higher self is guiding me after Mercury gets farther out of its retrograde through the shadow period. And so, but anyway, yeah, it's like I just don't want anything to do with town. And so that's the thing, just protecting your energy, getting into nature a lot, cutting off friendships that, oh, that's the other thing. So there's a lot that I'm noticing around this sort of like what needs to go is going. Like my daughter and I are rehoming her 4 cats. We took in a stray cat the COVID year because we were out in the desert and there was this barn cat, we took her in. Turns out she was pregnant and we didn't know. And she had babies on my daughter's bed. And so we have all these kittens and we just kept all of them. And they were really wonderful during that year. And we've had them for 6 years. And now it's like, my daughter, her life is taking off and they feel like anyway, it feels right to move them on and to find them new homes. So if you're in town or you're coming through town and you want a fabulous cat, they're all really amazing. We've had them since day one, and you can like pet in between their paws and rub their bellies, and they're like super friendly and all these things. Are really, really special cats. Yeah. And so anyway, but that, and then, like relationships ending, people that like, if you knew that you were sort of like, weren't supposed to be with this person, or you were leaking their energy to them or something, or they were blocking you from this, then a lot of that leaving abruptly, like musical chairs, or people knowing they need to move or go somewhere else, or, there's like a lot of that, like the voice of God, that God told me, right? This type of energy. And now I got to go do it, and that type of thing. But really about protecting your energy and protecting your timeline. Like nobody, in a sense, our loyalty, it's like that thing, don't commit to me, commit to evolving. I'll meet you there. Our loyalty is to this true organic timeline, because the ship is going down and we want to make sure we're off of the ship. And sometimes leaving someone is the best way you can give them an opportunity to get on the ship, because if you're feeding each other's distortions, or if you're feeding the distortion, through your activities in the world or in your town or in your job or whatever, then you're putting your coins in the wrong basket at a time where bifurcation is happening, where we need to choose our alignment, and that being strong. So I was talking about that last time too, the strong spirit guidance that's moving us into position. It's feels like it really upped the ante, in terms of finality, needing to make a move like now, that type of thing, but hearing it from within, not like I better do this because it's time, right? You feel it and you're guided. So that's interesting. So just a lot about protecting the timeline, protecting what's natural and true and organic, and what you can evolve into your true self with, in terms of activities, people, modalities, whatever it is. Okay, so let's see here, the arrow. Oh, that's interesting. So the arrow is coming out under justice. So that's kind of what I was talking about, where you got to go down into your shadow. You got to go into the polarity, where it's like we're working the polarities, we're bringing them into balance, but we're going from one side to the other. But when you go down this way, it's like pulling back an arrow catapults you into this, right? And so a lot of us are realizing that the darkness or the trials or the heavy things that we've gone through were part of that pulling back that arrow, so that we could understand the opposite polarity. If we were only ever in the light, if we were only ever in the what seemed like light without knowing the dark or the opposite polarity, then we didn't have the whole picture. We didn't have our wholeness. We weren't integrated. So we had to go into that. So a lot of us chose really dense childhoods or upbringing, or for me it was with my my marriage, like a 20-year period in between there, where I really and I knew too, I was like, I'm too over here, like I'm too I just have it too good, like I need to understand the other side. And I started manifesting and calling in situations that were really bad, but it's like I needed them, and I knew that. And I forgot that when I was in it, I went unconscious as I was crawling through that mud. But I knew it's like I needed to understand the hunter so that I could be a part of the solution, and a lot of us have done that lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, so that you can bring things into balance. Now you can't really come into balance if you're only one side. It's going to be heavy on whichever side you're on. So if the people that were really over in the dark are coming over here, so again, it's that forgiveness and that sort of us staying in alignment to be that compass, and to be that if you have reached a point of integration, you've done a lot of that polarity shadow work, you've pulled back that arrow, it's like coming into that balance. And I think that's what this configuration is saying, that is what's happening. A lot of us that have pulled back that arrow and gone into those darker places are coming into a balance with this energy where we can hold steady and be that fractal of wholeness, And again, a light on the grid, a light on the grid to stabilize, the 4 again, to stabilize the energy with the elementals, be a part of that grid with an integrated frequency, with an integrated alignment that's not leaking its energy and feeding. Okay. But needing to go into that. So if you are in a dark space, it's like, excellent. You're doing that work. And you're coming into this balance, and it had to be done. You couldn't just hang in 3D. You had to go into 4D. You can't go from 3D to 5D. You got to crawl through the sewer. You got to figure out who's hunting you. You got to see through and claim your sovereignty and all that. So if you're in that space, you're right on track. You're not lost. You're right on track, and you're doing what you need to do to get into this realm. You're pulling back your arrow, and you're not alone. You're not alone, and you're not alone not only because your higher self and your guides know exactly what they're doing. Also, you're not alone because you have the elemental and the true templating of the earth that is through nature, but also through in your body that you can lean into, but also through the people that have come into this integration period. We're holding this frequency for you as well, so you can trust your journey. And it's almost like go ahead and fall down the whole way, and maybe even think that you're being eaten by a bunch of sharks, because there are things that are holding the other end of the rope for you. They're holding the other end of the rope. There are beings and soul family and your higher self that's holding the rope. You're not going to get devoured by this. And I've talked about this before. It's almost like the lower you can go, the higher you're going to go, and the more integration you're going to have. And we don't really have a choice. It's not like, oh, maybe I'll go a little more. It's like, no, your soul is taking you there, but you can trust it. You can trust it. It's your soul has a plan for you. Soul has a plan for all of us. And just knowing that the other end of your rope is held, you're not going to get lost down there. You're not going to get lost down there. Just have that faith, have that hope, that knowing that there are allies, even if you don't see them. Again, it's invisible. It's invisible. It's behind the scenes. In the telepathic network through your soul family with your higher self, which is really quiet when you're in these spaces, right? And it has to be, because the point is for you to go down so far that you catapult and you catalyze into the other polarity. Again, finding your balance within that, but just trusting that process, just having like some small part of you. And I say this to my daughter because she'll just speak the most negative thing because she's in this, and she'll go on and on and on. And I'm like, just have like one sentence out of your 47 million that says, I welcome miracles, or I am a magnet to miracles. I'm a magnet to miracles. Is that what I say? Yeah. And I welcome magic. I welcome magic, and I'm open to it coming to me. Just like one little door open into this world. It's like, you got to feel that alchemy, and you got to go down, but just to know that you're actually not lost, a little bit of a reminder on that. So let's see what comes out underneath the moon card, that subconscious sort of invisible realm energy. Wow. So we get overflow, overwhelm, and plenty. So indicating, coming out underneath of this, that there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes, a lot that's going on behind the scenes. That's why we're so tired and in so much pain. If you're relating to that, it's why we're so emotional. If you're relating to that, my nose is really, really itchy right now. Excuse me. And why our minds are like, there's just a lot of this going on, and just knowing that that's collective, and knowing that it has a purpose, and knowing that not only that, but it's bringing you into, it says overwhelm and plenty because it's overwhelming, but on the other side of that is this overflow. Look at that. It's a fountain. That's abundance. This is like the higher timeline, the Tiamat restored, the water planets, the everything, knowing the way to move in natural alignment, the way it was always meant to be, the truth of how things are without the cover up. So again, just kind of confirming what I was saying is that it's a good thing. It's a good thing, and it's leading you where you need to go. And to just take a deep breath if you need to, if you are feeling nurtured by this energy, and and feel that nurturance as well. This is the truth of what's going on for you. This is what your higher self is doing for you. And again, some people just took on a lot, they took on a lot because they wanted to be of assistance. And so it can be really hard. Some of us did that first. We were the front runners and we did all this journey first so that we could hold space now. But then there's a whole other round of people doing this now. And so just may that comfort you if you're one of these people. I'm looking at the numbers here. We have that 9 where it's like we're still in the tunnel, we're still crawling through, but just again knowing what it's all for. This is a 7. Again, that's that higher timeline energy. And this is a 6. So, and the 6 is always being about that embodiment, the high, indicating the higher self or the elementals or that which is assisting, not being alone, but assisting us in this embodiment of the higher energies. Because it's an ascension, but it's a descension. We're coming onto the earth, into our bodies with that higher truth, that higher, our divinity, with our divinity, instead of plugging into the program, we're plugging into our souls and we're planting that on the earth. To recreate this how it was supposed to be and lighting up the grid while we do it. So, all right, so let's see what comes out underneath the hunter, and then I will close out this reading. I'm not sure. I'm looking at the goddess deck, so I guess I'll go ahead and do that. I just saw Callie from last week. I've used these cards, but she just wanted to show herself again. Yeah, so hold on. Let me just get one here. All right, just one card. Oh, wow, beautiful. Yeah, see, there's that message again, compassion coming underneath the hunter. So I know a lot of people don't like that. They don't like to hear that, to have compassion for that which is hunting is, but it is playing its role at this point in human evolution. It's part of the catalyst. It's part of your divine catalyst, your dark angel. It's also having compassion because a lot of these hunters have reached again, like I was saying earlier, they've reached the end of their game and they have nowhere else to go but to return home to all that is, and just having compassion, being a compass and a guide for that as well, because this energy is mirrored within ourselves. So, again, to reject it outside of ourselves is to reject it within. So if we're going to come into true balance, true balance where we can truly, and that's where that Anubis message comes. I don't know if I finished that, where it's like, have your scales balanced where you can enter into the kingdom of heaven or the afterlife. But in this sense, it's like, in this case, it's the higher timeline, the truth of this realm, higher timeline, but it's really only because we've fallen. It's the truth. It's what's real. It's what's always been real. It's what a lot of us have seen and felt, where you're like, I don't like it here, like what the hell is going on, coming back to that, finally, doing your job and sacrificing, coming down, going through, crawling through, taking on all of this, having compassion for it all, having compassion for the people you came here to assist, the people that are stuck in this energy, not only the ones that are stuck as victims, but the ones that are stuck as perpetrators, because there's a story to that as well. And so allowing it all to come back home, embracing it all. And that's that, again, that divine feminine Mother Mary energy that embraces everything. It's the wholeness, it's the balance. When you're in balance, you don't have to fear anything. You're not outrunning anything. You know that everything has its place, and you can be graceful and gracious with it as long as with yourself. So that's sort of a double message from last week that came up as well, but still obviously very important, because again, what this card is representing, that distorted energy is, there's fractals of it, and it's in us as well. So to just have compassion for this whole process. All right, so I'm gonna end there. I hope that was helpful to some of you. I'm going to go back and listen. I'm sure it will be helpful to me as well. Yeah, and thank you for being here, and thank you for everything that you're doing, in this realm, and all of the hard crunches and the courage and and just a reminder of that telepathic network, how when you're in this space, you're not in there alone. There are others in there with you, and there are others that were in there before that already came out, but it's like in the no time space, it's like there are allies. You're never alone. There are allies with you, ones that have lit lit the candles, and ones that are in there with you working on the same piece at the same time. It's just this gorgeous collective movement of awakening from inside of ourselves, having compassion for it all, including the catalysts that are getting us to do this work, because it's bringing us into our power and into our remembrance of why we're here, bringing us onto our mission and our path, and the truth and wholeness of who we are. So thank you for you, and thank you for being here. I had someone recently send me a message, and she thanked me for humaning, and I just thought that was so wonderful. And so I thanked her for humaning as well, and I thank you for humaning, for choosing to come down, and to crawl through this density in service to this planet and beyond, and how glorious to have found each other through social media and through these platforms, to feel held in that network, because it can feel really alone. So may this message benefit you if you needed it today, and may the people who need it find it in the exact time that they need it. All right, thank you. Much love, and I'll see you next time if I do. Okay.